Welcome to the Genealogy Professional Podcast, the resource for transitional and experienced genealogists who want to create a successful business. I'm your host, Miriam Pierre-Louis. Here you'll learn from professionals all around the world who work in the field of genealogy. Are you ready to get started? Then let's get going. This podcast is sponsored in part by the Association of Professional Genealogists. You can find out more about them at www.apgen.org. Welcome to episode 22 of the Genealogy Professional Podcast. This week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not going to be focusing on the individual journey of one professional. Instead, we are going to be taking a closer look at the ProGen Study Group. And it's my hope that through this episode this week, we'll answer all the questions that you might have about the ProGen Study Group so that you might be able to make a decision about whether you'd like to do that at some point in the future, or perhaps you'll want to do some other educational opportunities. So hopefully we'll dig in deep enough during this episode that you'll have all that answered for you. But before we get started, I want to cover two news items. The first one is from the GRIP Institute, and GRIP stands for the Genealogical Research Institute of Pittsburgh. They have held a one-week institute each summer, and they just sent out a press release announcing that in 2015 they will be doing 2 institute weeks. So that is a great opportunity for so many people. I'm hoping that maybe one of these years I can get over there myself. So if that particular week wasn't good for you, or maybe you wanted to do both weeks, this opens up a lot of opportunity for further courses and chances to take classes with different experts in their field. So that's good news from GRIP. So head over to their website, www.gripitt.org, for more information on that. And I just wanted to give a heads up about some things I'll be doing in May in case anybody is around. On Thursday, May 8th, I will be speaking at the Paul Pratt Memorial Library in Cohasset, Massachusetts, giving a talk on house history research. Then on Saturday, May 17th, I will be delivering the talk at the annual meeting of the Connecticut Society of Genealogists. So if you're in Connecticut, head on over to that. That would be wonderful to see you. I am originally from Connecticut, and the meeting is actually being held on the border of my hometown. So it's just going to be all around a great experience for me, getting to go back home and doing what I love best, which is talking about genealogy. So I am so looking forward to heading over to the Connecticut Society of Genealogists on May 17th. And then rounding out the month of May, on May 28th, I'll be giving an APG webinar at 9 p.m. Eastern Time called Where Genealogists Go Wrong on the Internet. And it's all about your internet presence on the web. And I am looking for some people who are willing to be volunteers to be publicly critiqued during the webinar. I gave this talk to the New England chapter of the Association of Professional Genealogists, and I used some of the web presences of the local members there, and it worked out really well, and it gave people a really first-hand look at exactly what I was talking about with websites and social media and things like that. So if you're game, you can send me an email and let me know that you'd be willing to do that. All right, well, let's head on over to this week's interview. Angela, welcome to the Genealogy Professional Podcast.
Thank you, Marian. I'm happy to be here.
Today, we're going to do something a little different, and instead of focusing on Angela's professional background and her experiences, we're going to be talking about the ProGen Study Group. And so with that in mind, tell us when the ProGen Study Group got started, what year it was, and how did where did the idea come from?
Well, we got started in the spring of 2008. There was a group of us who were participating on the Transitional Genealogist mailing list. And we had already started a group to study articles from the NGS Quarterly, and that was going well. And so Lee Anders had the idea to study Professional Genealogy, the manual.
Okay, so it's 2008. and you've got this idea to form a study group to work with other people on professional topics. What did education in the genealogical community look like at this time? What opportunities were available to people up to that point?
Well, there were conferences and institutes and the NGS home study course, but there really wasn't very much online education at all, although the technology had become available where you could study together online. And one of the reasons that it started were there were some people who couldn't travel to conferences or institutes, but still wanted to study and didn't have people in the local area. So we thought we could just meet online with the new technology and study together.
So give us a sense of what ProGen looked like at that time. How did it get organized? What did you use to communicate? And also, how many people were in a group when you got started?
Okay, we just kind of got started off of the transitional genealogist list. We made a posting and said who would like to study the manual professional genealogy. Most of us had the idea that we wanted to enter into this profession, but a few people were taking clients, others were not. We just wanted to really kind of get an educational foundation before we jumped into the business. And so from the posting on the TGF list, I think there were about 35 people who said they wanted to participate. So we separated into 3 different study groups because we couldn't all be online and discussing at the same time. And at that time, we were just in like a messenger chat room online. And then when we completed assignments, we would email them to each other. So it was really kind of casual, but it worked for what we were doing, and we were just excited to be studying together with people across the country.
So were those 3 study groups all part of ProGen, what we call ProGen 1?
Yes. At the time, it didn't have a number. We just called ourselves ProGen, and we asked permission from Elizabeth Shown Mills. We just named ourselves after the book, and she gave us permission to use that name. And now that I think about it, I think there were 4 originally. So we were doing different times, but we were all part of what we now call ProGen 1.
And did you have mentors for each group? Who was guiding the group? And were you the one who was organizing the overall ProGen at that time, keeping track of everybody?
I was not the one that was organizing ProGen at that time. I took over in the fall of 2008. So Lee Anders had the idea. She and Christy Fillerup put the groups together. And so we had 4 different groups. And sometimes it was just according to what time you could meet. My group met at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays. There were other groups that met in the evening. There's one that we called our California group because most of the people were out on the West Coast. And we had posted on the transitional genealogist list that we were going to start these study groups. And Elisa Powell contacted us and asked if she could join us and participate as a mentor. And we were thrilled to have a mentor, somebody who had been through it before. And she chose to participate in each of the discussions. So she attended all 4 discussions each month. She didn't do assignments or see the homework or anything, but she participated in the online chats.
Wow, so Alyssa was mentor for all 4 groups.
That's right.
And was there a leader within the group at that point to help out with, coordination or anything like that?
Yes, each of those 4 groups had a leader. Melanie Holtz was one, I was one, Sherry Fenley was one, and I think Deborah Hoffman was the other one. I'd have to go back and look. I really hope I'm not leaving someone out.
Shame on me for asking anyways. After you completed that first ProGen, I'm sure you did a little bit of a reassessment. I'm sure there was a lot of enthusiasm going on. What decisions did you make at the end of ProGen 1? And how did you then approach ProGen 2?
Well, ProGen 1 hadn't even finished when other people saw what we were doing and wanted to participate. So we were kind of in the middle of the program when, people kept saying, I want to participate too. And I thought if we have enough people that are interested, we'll put together a second group. So Debbie Parker Wayne volunteered to coordinate the second group and be in charge of it. And Stephanie Evans volunteered to mentor the group. And so once they had a coordinator and a mentor, they also split into 3 discussion groups because they had about 25 people. And so even when ProGen 1 was still going on, ProGen 2 started the study program.
And about how many people were in each discussion group?
Usually we started with 8 to 10. We figured out that 8 was a better number, so we didn't have so many people, trying to participate at the same time. We didn't want it to get too big or too small. And over time, just experimenting, decided 8 was about the right number.
And how long did it carry on like this until you switched systems and started to use Basecamp?
Well, Janice Gilmore was the coordinator for ProGen 3, and she decided that she wanted to use a project management system. So she went online and looked at different systems and thought that would be good. And I said, sure, go ahead. And so she started ProGen 3 on Basecamp, and we've been using it ever since. It has a private chat program on there. It stores the transcript of the chat. It has a messaging system, so all of our messages can go through Basecamp and also be stored there, so we're not relying just on email. And then if anyone wants to refer back to a message or back to an assignment, all of the files are stored on the Basecamp website.
I didn't realize that had started so early. Now, when ProGen first started, it was entirely free. And I understand now you're charging a small fee to cover the costs. So we
just asked for a donation to cover the cost of the Basecamp website. So it comes out to about $5 a month per person to pay for the website. So if it's an 18-month program, we ask for a $90 donation. Otherwise, it's still a free program other than the website. Everybody involved volunteers their time. I volunteer as the administrator. All of the mentors volunteer. The coordinators volunteer. If that $90 is a hardship for anyone, we do have a scholarship available that's needs-based, and so anyone who wants to participate is able to.
Can you give us a sense of the progression that a ProGen Study Group participant would go through, theme-wise, topic-wise, over the course of the 18 months?
Sure. We study the entire manual, Professional Genealogy. There are 29 chapters, and so we do either 1 or 2 chapters each month. And we do all of the topics. There's topics on writing research reports. There's topics on business planning and contracts. And we write a business plan. We cover writing case studies. We cover evidence analysis. Everything that's in the manual, we study. So each month we're assigned 1 or 2 chapters to read and study, and then a practical assignment. So we're not just studying the topic, but we're applying that to our work right away that month. So if we're studying research reports, then everybody writes a research report. And the styles will vary, but they submit that. The assignments are due on the 25th of the month. And then there's an opportunity for the members of the group, the little group of 8, to review the work of their colleague and give some feedback. And they're asked to give both positive feedback and then some constructive suggestions on how they can improve. And then after the feedback's in, during the first week of the month, we hold the group discussions online where they gather with the mentor after they've completed the assignment. And there are some discussion questions that we follow, but they can also, whatever the group members feels most important on that topic, they can bring that to the group discussion and talk to their colleagues about it.
When they are submitting their assignments and they're sharing their work, how many people are they critiquing or commenting on? Do they submit it to all 8 people and you have to comment on all 8 people? How does that work?
Well, the way that Basecamp is set up, we have a page just for, let's say it's the ProGen 22 Tuesday group. So that would be the 8 people plus their coordinator and their mentor have access to that page. Some of the groups split into 2 feedback groups. So they're reviewing and giving feedback on either 4 group members, or some of them still stay with all 8. So they're reviewing 7 projects. It kind of depends on the group, or once in a while, if we have, someone that has dropped out of the group, they might be doing 5 or 6 reviews each month. But the larger groups are split in half, and so they review about 4 people assignments each month.
Okay, speaking of people dropping out of the group, what is the commitment? Like, what is the expectation? What do you ask people to commit to in order to fulfill the requirements and to respect the time of everyone else?
Well, one, especially since the mentors, who are all at this point certified genealogists, are volunteering their time to mentor the group, we ask people up front to commit to the entire 18-month study program. And they sign a paper that they agree to do that. But, sometimes life circumstances get in the way. There are family illnesses, there are job losses. People have to make choices in life, whether they can continue to participate or not. There are a few people who, just get overwhelmed and the program is more than what they expected, or other situations. And so in order to respect the time of their colleagues, we ask them to make a commitment, but on occasion, people do drop out. We do have a new policy so that people don't just, casually drop out and think they'll drop into another group later, that because they're taking the time of the mentor, they just get one chance in a group, or if it was a very legitimate reason that they dropped out, the coordinator can recommend them to participate in a future group.
What happens if somebody misses assignments? What's the policy on that?
If someone misses an assignment, they can make it up. I mean, sometimes, there's an illness or a situation for a month, and they either get it submitted late or they do miss one. And so, we're understanding that this is a long study program, and there are going to be occasions when people do miss an assignment. So in order to complete the study program and earn a certificate of completion and be listed on our website among the alumni, you do need to complete all of the assignments. But if you miss it one time, you can either make it up the next month or the following month and get that submitted as soon as you are able.
Is there a cutoff if you miss so many assignments that you can't complete the course?
Well, because it's not good for a group if we have somebody who, has missed 2 or 3 assignments and is not really participating, we either ask them to make a recommitment and give them a deadline to make those up and fully participate, or sometimes that's when they drop out if they don't think they can continue. But it's a little disheartening on a group if somebody's really not fully participating. This study group, because it is collaborative and is based on everybody working together, functions best when everybody is doing their part, submitting assignments, giving the feedback, participating in the discussions.
Now, because of the nature of critiquing your peers, researchers can feel a little bit vulnerable about sharing their work. What is the feedback you've gotten on that, and what is the policy you have on privacy to set the tone?
Well, the privacy, the only people that can see the assignment are the 8 people in your group and the coordinator and the mentor, so it doesn't go anywhere else. On the Basecamp website, everything is completely private. We do try and encourage them to, be complimentary in their feedback. First, say something that you thought was done well on the assignment, and then give a little bit of constructive feedback. On occasion, we do have issues with someone that is a little too aggressive in their feedback or a little too sensitive, and sometimes we work those out within the group. The coordinator works with individuals to give them feedback on how they're doing giving feedback, if that makes sense. Sometimes we talk about it ahead of time, how do we go about giving feedback? And then there are instructions in the assignment, because every assignment's a little bit different, what feedback would look like on that particular assignment. So sometimes we say, they're writing a mission statement. You don't really need to critique it, but you could just restate it to see if their message was clear. When we get to research reports, we're very specific on, we're going to use the rubrics from the Board of Certification for Genealogists that they could go through and compare the research report to those rubrics and see how they think that it meets those rubrics. And so sometimes there are specific instructions on how to give the feedback. We usually start out at the beginning of the study program with a couple of assignments that are a little bit easier, that don't require in-depth critiques, an education plan, a resume, a research plan, not a research report. We get to the bigger assignments later in the ProGen study program. So like on the research plan that somebody had written, you could just add in and say, oh, it looks like, you've missed a certain type of record. Have you thought about including that? And just give some ideas and suggestions rather than critiques. And then after a couple months, when they get more comfortable with each other, it usually works, and they feel better about giving feedback.
What kind of responses have you gotten from participants about, say, what they regarded as the funnest assignment in the program or the most difficult assignment in the program?
Well, I'm not sure what they think is the funnest assignment, except I have a group that was just working on writing a narrative, like a sketch of a family, and then including the properly numbered children's list. And some people really have enjoyed doing that. Putting the social history in with it, telling the story of the family where the focus is on the family, not on the records. And one participant shared that with her mother, and she was so excited. She said, "This is like reading historical fiction, except it's about my family, and it's, not fiction." So they've really enjoyed that assignment where they're writing a narrative. I think the assignment where people have the most hesitancy or are the least interested is the business plan. There are some people participating that don't really want to take clients. They just want to do professional level research, or they're preparing for certification through the Board for Certification of Genealogists. And so the research or the business plan is not usually their favorite, but those who have gone through and really completed it say it can be one of the most helpful assignments as they think about their business and what they want it to look like and where their niche is in genealogy. It can be a very helpful assignment. There are a few who completed it not thinking they were ever going to take clients and then later changed their mind and were grateful to have the plan already in place because they'd done the thinking about what they would do if they were going to do this as a profession.
Can you tell me what percentage of people who go through the program intend to take clients and what percentage are like this other example you're giving who really are just doing it to lead up to the CG or AG?
I don't have exact statistics because I haven't really studied that, but just from talking with the new group members, my feeling is about 75% of them would like to do this eventually. I would say, less than half are currently taking clients in the average group just starting out, but about 75% want to eventually take clients and do this, as a profession, whether it's part-time or full-time, either way. And then there are a few that just want to do the CG route or, make sure their work is at a professional level.
What sort of experience levels do the genealogists have coming into the program? Are they all at the same level? Does it vary greatly? What is a typical participant's background?
That's a good question. And on our website, on the page, where you can join a ProGen Study Group, there's a questionnaire to go through to ask kind of your background and what experience that you have. The reason is this program is not for beginners. It does not teach about, researching in records. It actually doesn't teach about research at all. We assume that they already have the research skills and need to learn the writing skills or the business skills or, the dealing with client skills. And so while we don't have a minimum standard, you go through the questionnaire to see if you have, some educational background, some experience, if you've worked in repositories and courthouses, if you've worked with, at least 7 different varieties of records, to weed out those who really are, more beginning genealogists because they won't thrive in this program. If they go through the questionnaire and determine that they are ready, and it is a self-determination, then they can continue and fill out the application to be on the waiting list for the next ProGen Study Group. So honestly, there is still some variety in experience level because we have some people that have been, doing this professionally and taking clients, and we have some that are skilled genealogists but haven't done any professional work. And so we've had discussions about if we should separate them by skill level, but right now they're just separated. When we start a new group, the mentor, who is going to participate in all 3 of the discussions every month, chooses 3 different times that are convenient for him or her, and then the participants choose which of those 3 discussion times are best for them. So right now the groups are put together by convenient times that they could meet online once a month. So one group could have a variety of skill levels. Now, sometimes that's an advantage because they might have different backgrounds and areas of expertise where they can bring together and everyone can learn from everybody else. And in ProGen 2, Stephanie Evans really emphasized this point, that everybody has something that we can learn from and something to contribute to the group. And it might be, they had a graphic designer that was helpful, and then they had people with the history background. And so everybody brings something to the table. And let's say, when you write your research plan, they would have all different kinds of suggestions and ideas that would be helpful. And those who are more skilled can really work hard to help other people, to give them some suggestions on their work. Now, they, wouldn't go through and give a really heavy critique. They might just share, the 3 ideas that might be most helpful to them, but recognize what level that they're at now and help them to progress just a little bit farther. One thing we didn't want to do in the ProGen study program was eliminate anybody who wanted to be a professional. Sometimes they're just going to hang their shingle out anyway and start a business. And so in the program, they can get an idea what other professionals' work looks like. And that can be helpful to them as they strive to make their work product at a professional level as well.
Let's take a moment at this time just to put the web address out there. So if you want to go to the website and learn more about the ProGen Study Groups, you can go to progenstudy.org. So that's ProGenStudy.org. If you click on the tab for the waiting list, you will find the questionnaire that Angela is talking about. It's underneath the form, so you have to scroll down just a little bit. And also take time to look at the FAQ page, which has a lot of information on there. And I also want to mention at the very beginning, Angela talked about the transitional genealogy list where ProGen got its start. And that is hosted, for those of you who are not familiar with it, that's a very active group. It's intended to help and support genealogists who are thinking of transitioning into a professional genealogy career. That is hosted on RootsWeb. And if you go to www.rootsweb.ancestry.com, on that page, what you need to go to is scroll down to where it says mailing lists. You can search for, in the link that says find a list search, and then just put the word transitional in, and you'll find the transitional list. It's an email list, so you sign up, and then you can get emails either as they get sent, or you can get them in the digest form that comes out every week. So I will put the links to all this information in the show notes, but I just wanted to give you those addresses in case you wanted to jump online and look at those right now. All right, Angela, what is some of the feedback that you've gotten over time from people who've been taking the course? What's the general feedback? How did they say that this course changed their career or their view of how they're going to approach genealogy?
In general, I've had very positive feedback on the course, especially when I meet people in person at different conferences or institutes. They're very appreciative and grateful for the opportunity to participate, especially in the business planning, because we go through and we help them write their contract, we help them write a marketing plan, they write a business plan, so they're much more prepared to enter this, and to think about where their niche is and what they want to do professionally. Some are also, very appreciative to have just seen a variety of ways to do a research report, because every project is different, and so what worked on one, you might need a different style for another one. So if they see 8 group members' research reports, that's very helpful for them to get ideas of when to use different elements for different projects. Some have also loved the feedback. It's very rare in, this profession or in many professions to receive feedback on your work from your colleagues, from others who are doing the same thing, to say, how does mine stand up against somebody else's, and what suggestions do you have for me to improve? So if they really take that as, I'm honestly trying to improve and I would like to have input from my colleagues on my work, then that is very helpful. There's a few that find it more or less helpful, or their group was more or less participatory. So as I mentioned earlier, when everybody's participating fully, then that makes the best study groups. Now, also, when you study with individuals for 18 months, you become very close colleagues. And, so then these group members can help you in other ways. We review articles for each other. We review, we continue even after, my programs ended in 2009, and I'm still very close colleagues with some of my ProGen 1 group members, and we help each other out. Or, if someone is now the editor of a journal and needs articles, she'll approach us and say, okay, who can write an article on a certain topic? And so I think those are some of the major benefits, is developing a network of colleagues, both inside your ProGen group and then in the ProGen program in general. At every major conference and institute, we have a ProGen gathering where we can get together and network with each other to see who else is in the ProGen program. And, maybe we've heard of them, or they are in the particular area that we want to work in. And so we can have someone that we can ask questions. And being a member of the ProGen Study Group, they have an instant connection. And so they feel more comfortable approaching someone to ask questions or to help and assist them. It's also very helpful that they all have a mentor. Because when we were first starting out, some people said, oh, how do I get a mentor? Nobody really assigns me one in APG or even in BCG. And so in the ProGen study program, everybody has a mentor that they can ask questions of, both at the monthly group discussions and then sometime offline. They've developed a relationship. I know some mentors have continued working with their students, as they go through their portfolio and the certification process, or sometimes it just brings up opportunities. I asked one of the study group members how he started out teaching at an institute, and he said that opportunity came when his ProGen mentor invited him. He had seen his work, he knew the quality of a product that he did, and so, other opportunities come. People know what kind of a work product you can produce.
We talked earlier about the fact that this is not for beginning genealogists. How would you suggest that people go about getting the experience they need before signing up for the program? What couple key things that they can do to make themselves ready?
I think there's several things. One, they need a really good foundation in genealogical research skills and records. And there's a couple ways to get that. The NGS American Genealogy course is an excellent course. It goes through 16 lessons and teaches people how to work with different types of records if they haven't worked in land records or probate records or court records. And one reason I like that course is they're required to go out to the courthouse or to the archive and actually work with the records. You can read about the records, but until you have experience working with them, I don't think you really understand it. And so there are other online courses. There's a lot of different places you can get genealogy education that weren't available, as we talked about in 2008 when this started, but you can still do a lot of self-education. You can read books. Val Greenwood's book on American genealogy is an excellent book to go through and study all the different kinds of records. There are webinars now, education that you can get from home for free, or there's some that you can pay for. But there's just so many more options now that weren't available previously. So now is a great time for genealogy education in general, that there are so many opportunities. But I think they need a good foundation in research skills, both online and offline, how to find the records that they need, how to know which records would solve a research problem or question that they have, and just experience. So once they have experience doing the research, then they'd be better prepared to participate in a program like ProGen.
Okay, so two good opportunities would be the NGS Home Study course and reading Val Greenwood's book, which I will definitely put a link in the show notes for that.
Right. Those are both records-based. There are other, like the Boston University Certificate Program is a little bit more about the methodology, and we have a lot of students that come to us from the Boston University program. And, when people are able, attending national conferences or regional conferences and institutes. Those are some of my favorite types of education. I really love the genealogy institutes as they focus on one topic for a whole week. So it's really a more in-depth kind of education. If people are able to travel or, to get to those conferences or institutes, I really do recommend those. But I realize that every situation is different, and some people have that opportunity and others don't. You
had mentioned that ProGen 1 was in 2008. Here we are in 2014. What number ProGen are you up to now?
On March 1st of 2014, ProGen 22 was organized. And so this is the 22nd group with an average of 24 participants in each group. And so I'm really excited that we've had so many people. I mean, we started out, just with 1 and 2, and then more people wanted to participate. That's when we got a little bit more formal, that I took over as the administrator. And I still post the lessons on the first assignment to every group. But we have wonderful coordinators and mentors that really work with the individuals in those groups on a monthly basis and continue the study program. So we're up to 22. There will be 2 more that are organized this year. We've already got the mentors lined up for them, so I'm really excited. And if people are interested in participating, they can go to our website, as you mentioned earlier, and fill out the form to get onto the waiting list.
So doing a quick calculation based on the numbers you gave me, it seems like over 500 people have enrolled in ProGen Study Groups.
That's right. Over 500 have enrolled. There are 6 groups that are still currently in the program, as it is 18-month program. And, some didn't complete the program, but we have 280 ProGen alumni listed on our website. And you can go and see who those are. You know that they, have had the dedication to complete the program, that they're very interested in learning this craft of professional genealogy. And so on our website, there's a tab for alumni. You can search by which group they are in, or you can search by area of specialization. So if you needed to hire a researcher, I know you can also look like on the APG list, but sometimes on the list, you don't have any idea of what that individual's qualifications are. And so we also invite people to use the ProGen alumni list when they're in need of a researcher.
That's great. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I didn't know that feature was there. So excellent. And what about a wait list? So if somebody wanted to sign up today, what would the wait list be like?
Right now, there's probably about 30 individuals who are on the waiting list after I organized the group that started on March 1st. But every time we organize a new group, I invite the first 24 people on the waiting list. They don't always register for that group if they've got something big coming up. Maybe I'm starting the next group in June, and when I invite people to register in April or May, some will decide that they've got travel plans in the summer or a big family wedding, and they would rather wait for a future group. So if you get on the waiting list now, you may or may not be invited to participate in the group in June, but if you didn't get in the June group, you'd probably get into the September group. There are some people that just signed up at the beginning of the year, and because some of the others didn't choose to register, that some of those that signed up in December or January were able to get in the group that started on March 1st. So I would say the waiting list would be between 2 and 6 months.
Angela, do you have any final thoughts? Is there anything that we haven't covered that people should know about?
Well, just one thing that I wanted to mention, because this is a little bit different than some of the other educational programs out there, for instance, like the Boston University Certificate. It is an instructor-led program where they have teaching assistants, and so they grade your homework, but it's a very expensive program. And so sometimes people come in and, they're expecting still to have an instructor-led, and this one's different. It's peer-led. It's colleagues working together to study and to give feedback. The mentor does answer questions, but she doesn't grade your papers. So sometimes people have a little bit different expectation if they've been coming from that program. But most of the time, this program works out great. Now, some people, it's not for everyone. They think it's too slow-paced or too fast-paced. But we found that in general, 1 assignment per month isn't overwhelming for those who are either working or have family responsibilities or are taking clients. But that way we can get through the whole manual in 18 months. We can't have it any longer than that, but it's about the right pace for the average person. I did just want to say one of the most fun things are the ProGen events that we have if you are able to attend conferences and institutes. This one coming up at NGS in 2014 down in Richmond is going to be exciting, as we're not only going to meet to network and to recognize the mentors and the recent graduates, but we're also going to have kind of a networking or discussion sessions where we're going to be in the room with the round tables that they use for the luncheons at the Marriott Hotel where the conference is being hosted. And we'll be able to have people have little on-site discussions about business plans or about networking or about client relations. so they can meet with group members from other groups, not just their own group, and discuss some of these ideas. So I'm excited for that.
Sounds like a great time. And what a wonderful opportunity, not only for researchers to get specific education to help better prepare them for a career in genealogy, but to build a network that's going to last for the entirety of their career. So for those of you who can carefully consider the program and think it through and then accept the commitment, I think this would be a great opportunity for you, and you should definitely check it out, talk to some other people who participated in the program and get some feedback from them as to how they felt about it.
One other thing, Marion, if people have specific questions, they're welcome to email me as well. They can do that at angela@progenstudy.org.
Well, Angela Packer-McGhie, thank you so much for coming on the Genealogy Professional Podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Marion.
Let's take a quick break to hear a message from the Association of Professional Genealogists.
Hi, I'm Kathy Damaris, the Vice President of the Association of Professional Genealogists. The very first step I made towards my career as a genealogy professional was to join APG. At that time, the idea of researching for clients was just the spark of an idea in my mind. My APG membership brought me into contact with the best minds in the field and helped me learn about the array of educational opportunities available and the steps I needed to take to reach my goal. My first clients found me through the APG membership directory, and many of my clients still find me there. After a lot of education and hard work, I now have a full-time career as a professional genealogist. My membership in APG is one of my most valuable business assets. If you are thinking about a career in genealogy, I hope you'll join us too. Please visit us on the web at apgen.org, apgen.org.
Well, this episode of the Genealogy Professional Podcast has been a little different. Instead of focusing on one person's journey in a genealogy professional career, we have looked at a program that can help you achieve some of the goals along your career. So we've looked at the ProGen Study Group, and we've tried to answer all the questions that you might have when considering if you should take this program or not. So I hope that this particular episode gave you a really good idea about what the ProGen Study Group is all about. And I hope we impressed upon you that it's a really great opportunity as you transition into a professional career doing genealogy. Before we end this week, of course, we still want to do an action item. So even though we've done things a little different, we're going to stick with the action item this week, and we'll make it a little bit ProGen related. So what I would like you to do this week is to go to the ProGen Study Group page, and that is, again, ProGenStudy.org, ProGenStudy.org. Head over to that website. At the top, you'll see a bunch of links, and click on the one that says Waiting List. If you scroll past the form at the top, where it says Application Information, scroll past that. Below that, you'll see the self-test area that Angela was talking about, and it starts with genealogical experience, and it asks you to answer questions about your genealogical experience. So your action item for this week is to go to the waiting list page on the ProGenStudy.org website and fill out this self-test to evaluate your experience. Whether you want to do the ProGen Study Group or not, I think you should do this and give yourself an assessment of where you are right now in your educational process of learning genealogy. It's a good little questionnaire, and it will make you think about your progress so far, and maybe it'll help you realize some of the gaps that you have, and then you'll be able to make some decisions about what you need to do next on your journey to fill those gaps. Maybe you need to do the NGS study course, or maybe you want to consider a program like the BU certificate program, or maybe you'll find out that you are ready for the ProGen Study Group. Either way, your action item for this week is to take this questionnaire and find out exactly where you are with your experience and think about what steps you might take next. Until next week, so long.